This episode is brought to you by the shows of the You Run Podcast Network, all available at yourunpodcast.com. Whether it's true crime or film reviews, even TV series deep dives, the You Run Podcast Network has you covered. So go and check out yourunpodcast.com today. I think it's become a thing now where I tell jokes that set the tone for what we're about to expect in the episode. Would you say that's fair?
I would have said so, yes.
Okay. What's the difference between Catholic priests and spots?
I don't know.
Well, spots wait until you're at least 13 before they try and come on your face.
That is the best you've done yet.
You want to die tonight?
The dad jokes you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word lost in the screen. Your passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts or a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled.
Hello and welcome to the You Run Podcast Horror Movie Review. My name is Scott.
My name is Mark.
And we are an interactive horror movie review show run and controlled by our listeners. You can run and control the show by following us on Instagram. We're at You Run Podcast. While you're there, give Mark a follow. He's at Reviews from the Crypt and at VHS from the Crypt as well. You can get in touch with the show. Send us an email, yourunpodcast@gmail.com, or by leaving us a voicemail on Instagram or X. Also, if you enjoy the show, about 3 weeks after each episode drops, you can now go to YouTube. You can rewatch this episode with lots of scenes from the movie cut in, lots of other visual things done. It's a remaster. I've become George Lucas. It's a remastered version of
It
the
didn't
episode.
end well for George Lucas when he remastered Star Wars, so be careful with your choice of words on that.
George Lucas was given millions and millions of dollars by Disney for his work. I'm fully on board with remastering these episodes. We are a review show. We will talk about movies. We give you spoilers. We talk about synopsis, plot. We don't particularly go in any order. We go where we want to. No interactive feature today. However, there is a game themed all around religion, something that Mark loves.
Oh dear.
If you are religious, I am going to say it now. If you are religious and you are a devout Catholic, this may not be the episode for you. And if we say anything,
not.
Yeah, and if we say anything that is offensive, remember, I am a fully fledged confirmed Catholic, and I can say what I like.
And I am a normal person, and I'm an atheist, so therefore I can say what the fuck I like too.
Yeah, this is going to be heavily laden with questions and religious discussion, which is not commonplace on this show. The reason for that is we are reviewing Dogma. Let's get it out of the way. Is it a horror movie?
I think if you were to categorize Little Nicky as horror, then you would categorize Dogma as horror. It's difficult, isn't it? I think we're dealing with religion, so realistically it is categorized as fantasy, with horror elements.
Yeah, okay, that's.
But I feel like I'll get it out of the bat now. I feel like there could have been a hell of a lot more horror elements incorporated to this movie, which would have made it a million times better. But as it stands on its own, it's fantasy with horror undertones.
Yeah, okay. Dogma follows the story of two fallen angels who found a loophole to get back into heaven. To stop this, the voice of God puts together a team, almost like the Catholic Avengers. There's a muse, a couple of prophets, an apostle, and a descendant of Jesus Christ himself, with demons, angels, and a list of all sorts of wild ass other characters that are thrown into this. The possibilities are endless. It's whether will it be the end of existence or the rebirth of faith? Whichever it is, I could promise this episode is going to go balls to the wall on religion, and it's going to be something. I think that's where
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah, it's going to. Yeah, it's going to. I mean, I want to kick things off and talk about Kevin Smith briefly for a moment, because he's a very conflicting person, especially within Hollywood and some of the movies he's put out in the past. Where are you with Kevin Smith?
The man can do no wrong. I think he's amazing. Just from
I'm with you.
just from this and the sequel to the He-Man series he made, the man is an icon.
I think he's great, and I think the reason that I find him so endearing is because he's just a fan. He is just a fan. He's a fan of movies. He's a fan of comics. He's a fan of weed, which I used to be, which is where my love for him developed many years ago. I think the guy's fantastic, and his passion, and I think his passion is what shines through the most in everything he does, barring Red State. If anybody's seen Red State, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think the guy's fantastic, and I think he's got a good range to his directing as well. When you take on board stuff like Clerks, Dogma, Chasing Amy, Tusk, I think the guy does have a very varied filmography, and this was something we talked about with Jordan Peele last week in terms of Us,
Yeah.
and they're all very one-note, beat-by-beat movies that you can almost instantly say, right, that's a Jordan Peele movie. But I think if you take away, barring the cast, because his cast is very Rob Zombie-esque with every movie he does,
yeah.
especially with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, more in the older days than nowadays, however, he's very synonymous with the same group of people that he works with. But his movies all range from difference, and some of them I like a lot, some of them I dislike, some of them I've massively outgrown that I used to love when I was younger, such as Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That movie was brilliant, but now I'm of a mature age. That movie doesn't hold up as well as it used to when I was like 13, 14.
This is my favorite Kevin Smith movie because this rides the line between what I loved about Kevin Smith when I was 14 and what I love about Kevin Smith now. Like, this gets that balance just right. He's got enough Jay and Silent Bob in there that they're funny, but they don't reach the point where they dominate the movie. And then he's got other characters, and they're like Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman in this movie.
God.
I mean, for me, Metatron.
The thing for me is I've never seen Dogma. This was my first watch in prep for the show, and I love Kevin Smith, so I find it wild that I'd never seen this movie before. I'm going to have to say it now. In terms of the cast and the people that are in this movie, everybody who is in it give the performance of their career. I used to think Alan Rickman's Hans Gruber was my favorite Alan Rickman performance, and then I watched Dogma. I used to think Down Under, or whatever it was called, with Chris Rock, where he dies and he comes down to earth. He's like a fallen angel. I used to think that was his best performance. Then I watched Dogma. Jay and Silent Bob, I used to think they were the best in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And then I watched Dogma. Selma Hayek, I used to think she was the best in From Dusk Till Dawn. And then I watched Dogma. You can see where I'm going with this. I think everybody in this movie is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And this is like the peak of what they can do, especially on a comedic level. The only people I will say in this movie that I don't think are at their greatest level is Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and that's only because they have matured as actors and gone on to do some sort of Oscar-worthy stuff throughout their career as they've grown. But they're still fucking phenomenal in this movie. It's just I know what they've done since Dogma.
For me, Alan Rickman is the standout. He sits somewhere between Hans Gruber and Severus Snape. And he plays the messenger of God, the voice of God. And you've got the main character in this. She is the descendant of God, and he comes to deliver the message that she needs to stop the world being basically ending. And he appears in her room in a ball of flames. He's like, I am the Metro. And she jumps up and she extinguishes him. And his reply to that is, oh, do you do this to all the men who come in your bedroom? No wonder you haven't got a boyfriend. And then she's like, whatever you do, don't rape me. And he drops his pants and he's got like a Ken doll.
Oh, and he actually says, I'm like a Ken doll. And the thing is about this scene as well is he takes forever to pull his trousers back up. Like, they have a full-on conversation and he's just stood there with showing his Ken patch. And I'm like, man, pull your trousers up, man. This is getting awkward now. And that's what is so entertaining about this movie, is because of the subject matter they're dealing with. They don't come down in a sort of stereotypical fallen angel medieval style way where the way they're talking, they're so relevant, and the pop culture references they're making throughout their dialogue is just hilarious. And obviously that's all down to Kevin Smith's writing, his passion for movies. One scene in particular that has me bent over double is when they're in the diner with Jane Silent Bob and the girl who is a descendant of Christ. I can't remember her name going forward, but they're talking about John Hughes movies. And it goes on for about 10 minutes, and they're talking and dissecting John movies about what has bush and what has tits in it. And they're just breaking apart him as a director. And you know that this is all Kevin Smith's opinions on John Hughes. Yeah. And it's just played out in such a hilarious way. And I can't applaud it enough for that. I think this is the best script he's produced as a writer and director.
Yeah, and I think like what makes this so great for me is every single character has their own purpose, but they all have their own individual storyline. So you've got Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They were angels who was kicked out of heaven. So Matt Damon was kicked out. He was the angel of death, and he basically said, I'm not going to kill anymore for you, God, and God kicked him out. He kicked Ben Affleck out because Ben Affleck sat on the fence and got splinters in his ass and didn't make a decision. So these are two very different characters thrown together on earth for eternity. And when they find this loophole of going back through the church, Matt Damon's character's like, this is great. This is great. I get to smite everyone. Do you know what God would love? What he'd be really pleased with, like when we get back, is if I went and like killed the wicked before we go back. And you're like, and even Ben Affleck's like, I don't think he'd like that. He's like, well, even if he doesn't, we get forgiven when we go into the church. So who gives a fuck? Let's go kill loads of people.
And this is it. And it's just filled with so many subplots throughout. And this whole natural born killers direction that he takes with Loki and Barnaby is it Barnaby or Barnabas?
Barnabas.
Yeah. As they just go on this like mass killing spree. I mean, that scene in particular where they go into what is clearly trying to represent Disney, and they go into that boardroom, and Matt Damon has one of the best speeches in the entire movie, and he's walking around the table and he's picking apart all these corporate office workers, revealing all their like hidden sins. And I mean, this is some really, really dark stuff that they're dealing with. They're talking about some of them having sex with Thailand with children, and some of them sleeping with their son, and sort of full on child molester level stuff and all these things. But it is fucking fantastic, and it's so endearing, and you can't take your eyes off Matt Damon as he's pulling all these people apart. And in a way, he throws in little bits of comedy as well, which lightens such a dark tone that it's trying to represent. And it kind of brings me to my next point about it. So, sorry, go on, you say, because I'm going to go on a ramble.
This bit he delivers almost like a game show host. He's like, you flew to Thailand on the company account to have sex with? Guess what? A 14-year-old boy. And like you're laughing at it, but at the same time you're going, that's awful. And like even the girl on the end, he's like, you, however, have led a pretty good life, but you didn't say God bless you. And he puts a gun to her head. You're like, no. It's great.
But this is how self-aware it is, because even in that scene where he is literally trying to be a game show host in a way, the way he's running around this table, Ben Affleck, Barnabas, comes in. He's like, just tone it down on the theatrics a little bit, mate. And then they have this little back and forth between themselves. Just let me have this. Just leave me to it. And then he goes back to it again. It's just brilliant. Honestly, lightning in a bottle style stuff. The way that it plays out. But this is where I kind of noticed, because this had happened once briefly before, and I can't remember what scene it was, but it was this scene in particular. I was like, right, there was your opportunity to incorporate more horror.
Yeah.
And show the massacre. But it doesn't. It just cuts away We see Ben Affleck outside reading a comic book in the waiting room, and it's just guns banging and crashing and screaming. And then we come back to it again. And for me, that felt like that could have been your opportunity to take it to the next level, because it is clear he is giving no fucks in terms of what he's writing about and what he's talking about within this movie. So in terms of restrictions, I'm surprised to see him hold back on this side of stuff here.
The thing is, though, he holds back here, and then when we get to the climax of the movie and you've got Ben Affleck, full angel, flying round, picking people off the street, there's a scene where he flies over, he pulls the head off of a person and throws it and drops the body to the floor, and you see all of that. So he doesn't dial it back everywhere, but he dials it back in places.
Do you think that's more budgetary then?
I think it might be more budgetary. I'd love to see a director's cut of this movie. Like, I would love to see.
Because the thing that you say that, but like I have to feel like if there was a director's cut out there, given how little of a fuck he gave about upsetting people, I feel like he would have just put it in. I mean, this is a 2 hour and 8 minute movie, so it wasn't like he got told by like the NPA or something to dial it back and trim his runtime. So I feel like if it was there and it existed, he would have probably just put it in. And I have to think that this was more a budgetary aspect than it was him not wanting to do it.
Yeah, I think you could be right. And I think one of the great things about this is the way that they dig at religion, they dig at the Catholic faith, but they do it in such a way that they upset the Catholic Church more than any other movie. This is the only movie in history to be basically the Catholic Church publicly come out and said, we do not endorse this movie. We hate this movie. This movie must not be shown. This movie is demonic. And they didn't even do that with The Exorcist, but with this movie, the Catholic Church come out and went, fuck you, Kevin Smith.
But I mean, let's be honest, he takes some very cheap shots at the Catholic Church throughout. It's not just religion as a whole, it's mainly directed at the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they do the thing that the Catholic Church is outdated, and we get the Buddy Christ, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
That's almost,
I mean, even just a representation of the head of the Catholic Church himself. That guy is a fucking schmuck, man. And like he's supposed to be like the head of the head, and they even represent him as having this sort of like self-importance. Like, I'm too important for this shit. I'm going to do this, and the other. And they just represent him as an arsehole. Yeah. And the whole reason that they have this loophole is because of the Catholic faith and their belief system. So it's like, I mean, the thing that really I struggled with the most with this movie watching it is because I was so uneducated in it. And that's not because I'm an uneducated person. It's just that I find the whole thing complete nonsense and a waste of my brain power. So for me to have this knowledge of the Catholic Church and of religion as a whole, it's like I didn't grasp quite a lot of the stuff that I maybe should have done. And I've really struggled to understand some of the things that they were hitting on. Even though I knew they were there, it was clear what they were doing. I didn't quite grasp how offensive some of this stuff was because I don't understand it well enough.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
And again, one thing that I will say is there is a lot of meat on the bone with this movie. There is a lot of stuff here that I've only seen this once. I watched it once for tonight for this episode, and I can't wait to go back and watch it again. Like I literally cannot wait to sit down and watch it for a second time and try and catch some of the stuff that I missed the first time around, because it's almost as if every minute to 30 seconds there's a joke, there's a nib, there's a poke at something, and I there's no way you could get them all on a first watch.
No, and there's so many expedition dumps in this as well, done within conversations where they explain intricate elements of the Catholic faith, but put a slight twist on them that if you are devout Catholic, you're like, no, that's not what that means. And the whole, like, that's the whole thing. It's taking what everyone believes in the Catholic faith and just twisting it a little bit, like the fact that Jesus was black, but Chris Rock emphasizes that the Bible, that all of the Gospels were written by white guys. So like over time, the narrative changed, and the white guys who were writing it made Jesus a white guy. And the fact that God is a woman, Like, again, like, because it's all men. Like, men wrote it, therefore God went from being a woman to being a man because that fitted the narrative they were writing. And all these little digs and jibes of like having the muse, Salma Hayek's character, who in the strip club at the beginning, like I could play that scene on a loop.
My God. Oh my God. Like, seriously, man. Like, I thought when I watched From Dusk Till Dawn, I was like, wow, this woman is a goddess. How is her role in Dogma not more popular than From Dusk Till Dawn? Because everyone always referenced Dusk Till Dawn, like, oh, Selma Hayek in the strip club in From Dusk Till Dawn. It's like the pinnacle of what is good. And then you see her in this and you're like, no, man, no, go watch Dogma. Dogma is like a million times better for Selma Hayek.
Yeah, and I love like her character in particular, where she's a muse, so she inspires people with great ideas. And she decided she wanted to leave heaven and go and do her own thing. And she realized she can't give ideas for herself. And they put it down to, yeah, it's a real base level. So she can inspire people to put their hand in their pockets and produce money. And the bidding war between the gang and between Jay and Silent Bob, where Jay's just nudging Silent Bob and he just keeps pulling out dollars. Like like at first you're like, yeah, I get it. Like you want to win that bidding war, you want her to come over to you. But then when she explains it, it's kind of like, oh, that's so clever. Because they're not even doing it from their own free will. You're making them do it. It's brilliant.
One thing that really surprised me as well about Jay and Silent Bob in particular in this movie is Bob speaks twice.
He does
in this movie. He speaks twice in this movie, but I think in I'm like I say, I love Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and it's been many years ago, and I can't hardly remember Clerks since the last time I watched it. But he speaks in Jay and Silent Bob, and he has like this is one of the best scenes in the movie, to be honest with you. He has like this full-on like 5-minute monologue section where he just goes off on one. It's fucking brilliant. And Jason Mewes is just stood there like, what the fuck? As if he's never spoke before in his life. But he speaks twice in Dogma. And my question to you is, Jay and Silent Bob as characters, I don't know how well versed you are in the Kevin Smith sort of lore with these two.
A little
bit. Are they consistently the same character? I know they're the same characters, but are they?
Do they have
what happens to them in Clerks? Do they have a through story? If you watched all of them together, could you? And Jay and Silent Bob's story throughout, is that consistently correct?
I don't know how Dogma fits into that or where it fits in, but as far as I understand, they do have a timeline narrative for these two characters.
I know it does through Clerks 2, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and the latest Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I know that is a consistent of them.
I think this is as well, but I don't know where this falls within that timeline.
Right.
Like, and let's talk about Jay. So Jay's crowning. Jay's great. Jay is 14-year-old me. Is the only way I can describe Jay. But Jay, when he meets God, when all goes to shit at the end, and God is revealed as Alanis Morissette, which is incredible for a start.
And I spoke to you before the show, and we said about God, and I was like, the entirety of the movie, I was like, they're building this up, and this is going to be the greatest thing, and I just cannot fathom for the life of me who is going to represent God, because I know it's going to be someone really special. You have to have an incredible actor or actress, because they keep shifting between the two. At one point it's a he, one point it's a her. Even Chris Rock refers to him as he and then refers to him as her. Salma Hayek does it as well, even though she's the one that stipulates in the story that it is a her. She also then goes back and forth on he, him, her. So I was like, oh man, who's it going to be? Who could possibly have the wow factor for them to open the doors and it be like, yeah, of course that's God. And then they opened the doors at the end and Alanis Morissette walked out and I went, bang, nailed it. That is who he's got. In our modern day, for those of you who don't know who Alanis Morissette is, if you don't, go to iTunes immediately.
It's ironic.
It is definitely. It would basically be the equivalent of them opening the doors and Taylor Swift walking out today. That's the only way I could probably describe it.
Yeah. But when Jay meets her, so she doesn't speak, and they explain that the voice of God, like humans can't comprehend it. so their head would just explode, like they'd just die on the spot. And Jay comes up to her like, what the fuck is going on? Why is everyone dead? Who the fuck is this bitch? Why is she not speaking? Will someone fucking tell me what's going on? And God's just like looking at him and smiling. She comes over, just kisses him on the cheek, and he just falls on the floor. And it's like all the things they do with her as God, I think are very clever. So she doesn't speak. She goes out into the road and she cleans everything up, like just blinks and everything's back to normal. And then she's going and like smelling the flowers and doing handstands against a tree. And I really appreciate that, because that's kind of the creator has come down to her creation, and she's just enjoying it while she's here, because she's going to have to leave. She's doing cartwheels in a field. It's like,
Yeah.
so it's so subtle. Like all the things in this movie, there's lots of it that they take a big mallet and they smash you over the head with it. But there's also these subtle references and these subtle things they do that you can't help but go, that's just brilliant. Like so good.
It is, and I think the writing, not even just on the religious aspect, as a whole, as a basic through point from A to B as a writing story, I think it's fantastic. The way that they incorporate God coming down to Earth for certain periods of time, just going as an alias and just walking around. And he turns out to be the guy who gets mugged at the beginning. I didn't pick up on that at all until we got to the end, and it all clicked. And I was like, oh, that's fucking genius.
Yeah.
It's so clever. It's so clever that's it.
Because you've got Alan Rickman and Chris Rock trying to work out, they're like, why has God not come back? And they're like, we don't know. And it's because he's in a coma and she can't escape the body to go back up to heaven. And it's like, also the demon in this, the main demon, the main.
I can't remember his name. Israel, is it?
Azrael, Azrael, who is actually a real demon's name. But they could not have found someone who looked more like Ryan Reynolds if they cast Ryan Reynolds himself. Like he is Ryan Reynolds, like from Wish.
I love this guy. I think he's great. I liked him. He's fantastic in Dreamcatcher. Have you seen Dreamcatcher?
Yes.
He's really good in that. He's My Name is Earl. He's fantastic in My Name is Earl. I most know him recently because I have a child and he is a dad of Alvin and the Chipmunks in the in the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies. Can't remember the name of the guy, but he's really good. And I think everybody is in this. I think they're all just perfectly cast. And I think one thing that I do particularly like is Jason Mewes' character. He is like the pinnacle of comic relief throughout. And considering you're going up against Chris Rock, who is one of the best comedians of our generation, some might disagree with that, but I think the guy's hilarious. Jason Mewes outshines him second to none. Every single thing, every single word that comes out of his mouth in this movie is just perfect. And that's what I was saying about the Jay and Silent Bob movies. Like, I like him a lot in those, and I find him very funny, but he's also very immature in a way that he's not here. Even though he is technically immature as a character, extremely immature, his comedic timing and the delivery of everything he says is just pitch perfect.
The best example of that is when they meet. So these two are the prophets that the main character is going to meet, and they save her from some demons at the beginning, and they're sat in the diner, and he's going, so are you going to have sex with me first and then lunchbox, or are you going to do us both at the same time? Like, how's this going to work? She's like, I'm not sleeping with you ever. He's like, how about if at the end of the world, like we had like minutes to live, would you fuck me then? And she's like, in that incredibly unlikely scenario, sure. At the end of the movie, they go and hide behind a car as there's an
and you think he's taking her to safety.
And he starts pulling his trousers down. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, you said if we had 5 minutes to live, you would fuck me. We've got 5 minutes to live. I'm cashing in. And you're like, oh my God.
And that's another thing as well, which leads me on to how great of a person Kevin Smith is, because he is the punchline of 90% of Jason Mewes' jokes in this. He's calling him fat, he's calling him gay, he's calling him tubby all the way through. He's constantly ribbing Silent Bob. And he's written this about himself. These are like personal insults that he's delivering about himself. And it's just perfect, man. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I'm going to say it now. If you've not seen this movie or you've avoided it, go and watch it. And if you are like me, if you're someone who was raised Catholic, like this is the funniest movie, provided you're not still very into your religion. But if you were raised this way and you get all of these little references, some of the little jibes in here, some of the little digs where they've used like actual references to Bible verses. And if you were schooled in the Bible, like a Sunday school, you will get these references. You know the passages that they're referencing because they put so much detail into it. This movie is an absolute delight on more than just Ben Affleck and Matt Damon going on a rampage. It's such a cool movie.
The thing is, I've never had any desire in my entire life to want to read the Bible, but I now have a reason to want to go and read the Bible purely just so I can understand this movie on a certain level and I can get it more. You know, there's jokes in here that I feel like I need to be educated in religion enough to understand. And I want to do that. I want to be educated on that level so I can go back and watch Dogma and enjoy it on a completely different experience than I did the first time around.
Yeah, so first time I watched this, I was in the process of becoming a confirmed Catholic. So I was very much Sunday school and lots of that sort of stuff. And then I watched Dogma in the midst of all of that. And this raises so many questions about faith, and it raises so many questions about the Catholic religion and what is right and what is wrong. And it's really cool.
That's the thing. I don't understand the religion aspect of it a lot, and I just want to know how offensive this actually is. Like, is it offensive on a level that it deserves to be, where it gets banned by the Catholic Church, which it did, or do people need to lighten up a little bit?
The Catholic Church need to lighten up on a lot of things. I can see why they took such umbrage against it. I can see why it rallied. I mean, one of the best that I've not got it in facts, I'll tell you it now. One of the best things Kevin Smith ever done in his entire career, there was a protest against this movie, how bad it was and how Kevin Smith is going to hell. Kevin Smith went and made himself a sign to protest this movie, went and got dressed in normal clothes and went and joined the protest against his own movie, and also got interviewed by local news.
So you got on the news like, yeah, this is the worst movie I've ever seen, and it's actually Kevin Smith.
Yeah, he's like, the director is going to hell. He's such a bad person. Like, I can't believe this has been made. He's like, ban this movie, ban this. It's like, and then obviously he must have walked away from that, got us sat in his car and just laughed for about an hour.
And that's the thing. This whole experience of watching it, it's almost like you're sat there and you're like, man, this looks like the most enjoyable experience you could ever have in your life, because everyone looks like they're just having the best time ever. I need to see a blooper reel for Dogma.
I'll see if I can dig one out for the episode release. Should we take a break?
Yeah.
After this episode, why not check out our Resident Girl and our Resident Gay with the Girl and the Gay podcast. This is a podcast where Jay and Bex break down movies of all genres in a funny, entertaining way with lots of interactive features. So go and check out the Girl and the Gay podcast. Also available on the You Run Podcast Network, Video Tastings, a channel hosted by Gareth. This is the world of VHS like never before. From his extensive collection through to live watch-along parties, deep dives into special features and so much more. If you love VHS and retro videos, this is the place for you. So check out Gareth at yourunpodcast.com along with all the other You Run Podcast Network members. So please,
I love Gareth's new logo.
Oh, his new logo is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Make sure you go and check out the other network members, yourunpodcast.com. While you're there, you can also check out our merchandise. We've got loads of t-shirts and hats and all kinds of other things. I am in the process of making some male and female underwear. So you can have me and Mark. I'm going to get a picture of me and Mark, and you can have a picture of me and Mark on your groinal area.
Oh my God. I knew nothing about this. Going forward, I did not know this was happening.
You didn't. So this is going to be new merchandise, and I love the idea. So this is the idea I have in my head. So someone buys that underwear, like like for example, let's say you bought a pair of Mark and Scott underwear with our faces, and you get that moment where it's going to get all hot and heavy in the bedroom, and your wife pulls down your trousers. She's greeted by me like this.
The fact that you're doing male and female, the only thing that came into my head then is, if my wife was wearing a pair of your face, could I go through with it after the reveal? It's the question.
Would it put you off? Me there like that?
That's it. That's the conflicting side of the situation I'm in right now. It's like, would I be able to continue, or would I have to call it a day there and then?
Let's do some facts. So when Kevin Smith went to Alan Rickman, he sent him the script, and Alan Rickman rung him. And Alan Rickman had 2 questions, and depending on how Kevin Smith answered them, would determine whether he done the movie. Question number 1, will you stay 100% faithful to your script? And question number 2, are my wings CGI?
That was what he was stipulated. That was what he wanted to know.
He wanted the script to be kept as it was and not be changed and overridden by studios. And he wanted practical effect wings, which he got both. And that was all. That was all he needed to sign on board. So you know the scene where they go to the Mexican restaurant, and
yes,
he's got the maracas. So when he was given the maracas on set, he kept them with him all day, not just for that scene, all day. And he would proceed
prancing around.
Yeah, so he would proceed to use these when they were trying to film emotional scenes or difficult scenes, or when Kevin Smith was like complaining at a sound boom guy or something like that, and he would just come over and give him a shake and go, Arriba!
Again, I need a blooper reel for this movie because it looks amazing.
There is a blooper in this that stayed in the movie. So when Ben Affleck and Matt Damon go to the gun shop, so Matt Damon's talking to the guy about the gun that he wants. It's got to like be the wrath of God. And Ben Affleck's playing with a knife. You can see him in the background shot, just picking up and playing with knives. There's a moment where he drops the knife and looks at his finger. That's because he cut himself with the knife, and Kevin Smith kept it in because he thought it was hilarious.
That's cool.
The Buddy Christ. Let's talk about the Buddy Christ. This is, it's something that Kevin Smith was really insistent on. He liked the idea of giving like a revamp to the Catholic Church. This was kind of part of the story, is he wanted to update the Catholic Church for modern times. He's got a store in New Jersey where he sells comic books and all sorts of other things. He's got the Buddy Christ there, but you can buy a replica.
Really?
You can buy a life-size Buddy Christ, and as of last year, it is their biggest selling item.
I don't know how offensive this Buddy Christ thing is. Like, it looks great to me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, yeah.
I don't think it's that's offensive. I think it's very much that they've gone, look, this somber Jesus dying on the cross, like that's really depressing. What you need is the Buddy Christ. It's more the way that they unveiled it as like, don't worry about him suffering for your sins. He's your friend now. Like, it's awesome. So the bit that's really ironic about it was the Catholic Church, and I can't think what they were called. It's like there's like a league of people protesting against this movie. The thing that makes this so ironic is at the end of the movie, there's some end credits, not video, just an end credit note from Kevin Smith where he thanks God for allowing him to make the movie. He explains that he is a practicing Catholic, and he's currently raising a new practicing Catholic in his daughter. So he is a Catholic. He is a devout Catholic. He goes to church, but he still the shit out of this religion. And then at the end went, by the way, I'm Catholic. And I love God. God helps me make this movie. And you're like, fucking brilliant.
Wow, that has surprised me massively that he is religious in any format, really, to be honest with you, considering what I know of the guy. To know that he is a devout Catholic, especially making a movie like this.
Yeah, and he's raising his daughter Catholic as well. I think the thing is, like, I am, for all sense and purpose, I'm a Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic, but there are elements of the Catholic faith that are good. Like, there are elements of it that are good moral stories, and there's elements of that I instill in my children. Be kind to other people, like all those kind of things that are faith-based, that are taught in Catholic religion. Some of it's good, but it's shrouded by so much bullshit that it loses its message.
And that's one thing that I find this movie to do exceptionally well is it showcases that and says how lost the message has become over time, and it's inflicted people to, instead of it being Chris Rock has one of the best moments in this movie where I can't remember it word for word, as I say, I've only watched it once, but when he was going on this monologue about how religion as a belief system, what was it he said? It's something about how, as a belief system, it's perfect, but as an ideology, I can't remember. And again, I need to go back and watch it. But this whole 5-minute monologue from Chris Rock sums up perfectly my whole interpretation of religion and how everything that it's representing and trying to produce is a way of keeping people in tow and giving people a way of living in a give kindness, receive kindness kind of manner. I fully support all of that. It's all of the fallout that comes with it, where people are battling people based on their own individual faiths and who is a superior religion. And Chris Rock sums it up flawlessly in the space of, I don't know, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I can't remember how long he's going on for about it, but the entire time he was talking, I was like, that is exactly my point. And that is where I am with religion. And it's just perfect. And obviously Kevin Smith wrote this, and this is what his view and his standpoint is, regardless of how indoctrinated he is with the faith system as a whole. He knows on a level what is right and what is wrong and what's important and what the benefits that religion brings to people in the way that they live their life and how they treat others. And that's something that I agree with completely. I do think that it's important to live your life by the message that religion puts forward, but as a generation, as a people, and as a progressive human entity at this point in our lives, we should know what to take away from that and not implement that onto our daily lives and not go out killing other people and in creating wars across nations and so forth. So there is a lot to take away from this movie, especially whether you're religious or not. It almost sends a message out there to say, yes, this is all bullshit, but what the representation was, what it originally was supposed to imply to people. I mean, even the conversation that they have between Ben Affleck and Matt Damon about how it's fear-based, and that is what triggers it. It's like, I don't know, I need to watch it again, man, but I just think it's there, it's got it, it's nailed it all on, regardless of what you believe in.
Someone who doesn't have religion and deserves to go to hell owns the rights to this. So this is owned by the Weinsteins personally, own the rights to this movie. It is unavailable to stream anywhere. You cannot stream it, you cannot purchase it digitally. The last official home release of this was in 2008. However, there is a copy, or there's multiple copies available on YouTube, and watch it there. Don't buy a copy off a shelf, and do not put money into the pocket of the Weinsteins.
I bought it on VHS, only because I knew it deserved it, which I'm surprised at, by the way, because this is the first time you've recommended a movie to me and been like, honestly, mate, it's really, really good. You'll proper love it. And I went out on a limb and spent my own hard-earned money in your recommendation, and this is the first time it's paid off. I was like, he really was selling this movie to me, so it's like, it must be good, but I know Scott's let me down in the past. Do I buy it, or do I just illegally download it? I was like, no, do you know what, I'm going to take him in good faith. It's a religious based thing. Put a bit of faith in Scott, buy it, own it, put it in your collection. So I did, and this is the first time it's paid off, I'll be honest.
Wow.
I will send you to Jesus.
So After meeting Bethany, Jay says it's like I'm Han, you're Chewie, and you're Ben Kenobi, and we're all in that fucked up bar. This is how good a director Kevin Smith is. So he done that scene. He then used the same wipe to right transition to the next scene, which is exactly the same transition used by George Lucas in Star Wars.
Again, that's my point. There's so many things in here that just flew under the radar for me on initial watch.
Yeah, it's so good. Should we play a game? We have a new game today. What game have we got?
And then the Lord said,
Today we are playing a game all around religion. I'm going to be sharing some religious facts with Mark all around the Catholic faith and the Catholic Church. And all you need to do, Mark, is tell me if they are real facts or if I made them up. So some of these
I mean, we need to put some ground rules here. Are we saying facts as in proven scientific facts or just Bible-based facts?
No, these are all scientific-based facts. They're all facts about the actual Catholic Church as an entity, as a business.
Right, okay. I thought you was going to like reiterate some tales from the Bible and I had to tell you whether it was in the Bible or not.
No, I'm definitely not doing that because I know your answer to each one would be, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I would have at least had a guess, yes or no.
Vatican City has the highest crime rate on the planet.
I mean, in recent assassination attempts, you would assume that it would be a heavily... I don't know. The Vatican City, I don't know a great deal about it, but it strikes me as being one of those places where the Vatican itself is there in all its glory and then it's just stricken by poverty surrounding it. I have been to the Vatican as well. I have actually visited the Vatican. I haven't gone up inside it, but I've been out from the Vatican. And I don't remember it being a bad place. It was all really lovely from where I was.
So, do you think it's got the highest?
Oh yeah, sorry. I forgot we played again. Then I'm just rambling on about the Vatican. No, I'm going to say no.
It does. It has the highest crime rate in the world per capita for its population. There are 500 people who live in the Vatican. It has more than one crime a day, which crimes per capita give it over 100% crime rate, which is mind-bending.
Well, so there's 500 people live inside
the Vatican, and that gives it, because of the crime rate within the Vatican City walls, that gives it the highest crime rate in the world per population.
I mean, that's just numbers, man. That's not necessarily true, though, is it?
If you take into account the roughly 3.5 to 4 million people that go through there every couple of days, it's got a very low crime rate, but based on population, it's very high. The Catholic Church.
I tell you what, though, before you move on to the next question, it is expensive to go to the Vatican, which is why I think I didn't go in. Like, we went and visited it and saw it from the outside. It was magnificent in terms of architecture, but to go in it was ridiculous. I'm talking like 500-600 euros, and that's not even to get into like Pope level entry stuff. That's just like behind red tape and glance around a corner and stuff like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but hey, religion's expensive. The Catholic Church has over 300 priests in the US that specialize only in exorcism.
I want to say that's real, but I hope it's not. But I think that's real.
It's not. They do, however, have 170.
170 people on pay, literally on pay, which is money donated to the church to pay these people to follow fantasies. Yes, just remember that, folks, next time you get to the donation box as you leave your church.
There are over 10,000 recognized saints by the Catholic Church.
I don't understand the question here. What do you mean by saints?
So, for example, you've got St. Peter, St. Michael. Like that, there are 10,000 different saints. Over 10,000 different saints.
But what does a saint have powers?
No, that's just someone that the Catholic Church has said this person is a saint. So you've got
Like he's been recognised like a knighthood.
Yeah, recognised as a saint.
Right. Yeah. I think that's fairly feasible.
Yeah, it is true. The actual number is not known because there are some records lost over times of the Crusades and things like that. But they know it does far exceed 10,000 saints. You'll like this one. The Pope has his own specially trained personal protection team known as the Papal Guard.
What's the question?
Does
is it just true or false?
Does he?
Oh, right. Well, I mean, it sounded very legit. I thought you were leading to a question after it, so I'm going to say yes.
He does. They are one of the most highly trained military units on the planet. They're trained by the Special Air Service and the US American Forces, and also by Mossad in Israel. They're the oldest military unit in the world, formed in 1506, and their only goal in life is to protect the Pope.
Maybe Donald Trump should employ some of these folk.
They just need some of them. The Catholic Church claims that you must suffer for your sins.
I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I feel like that's a phrase I've heard before. You must suffer for your sins, or unless that's something that Pinhead said in one of the Hellraiser movies. No, because they're always quite forgiving, aren't they? As a religion, usually you can just go out and murder somebody and ask for forgiveness, and it's usually granted. So I'm going to say that's false.
That is false. It's quite a common misconception that people think penance and doing like the rosary and saying prayers is a punishment for your sins, but you're not suffering. The Catholic faith believes that Jesus suffered for our sins, so we don't have to. The devil's advocate is a real position within the Catholic Church.
So what is the devil's advocate?
The devil's advocate is someone who speaks on the behalf of the devil.
And they're saying that there is somebody who is employed on the books and paying taxes as the devil's advocate.
Yeah, someone who is employed by the Catholic Church to speak the devil's word.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that because as far as my knowledge goes, the devil is always somebody who is depicted as the bad.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of actual law, I don't think it's as... Is he?
Catholic Church, the devil is as bad as bad gets.
I just assumed he was like a misguided angel, and then like
no, he's bad.
He was just sent there to guide hell as a punishment by God, even though he was actually an alright dude.
No, he's a bad guy who tried to overthrow God and was banished to hell for all eternity to suffer. Does he have a spokesperson within the Vatican?
Then in that case, no. So did the devil, Lucifer himself, did he create hell, or was hell already there before he got sent there?
Hell was already there, but he created it in his own image when he got there. He created. So the Bible is devil.
He became the general.
Yeah, so he revolted against God because he resented God for how God treated humans. And he wanted to overthrow God and basically say, look, these are lesser life forms, and God kicked him out. He went to hell, made his own horrible place there, and tried to get as many souls as he can to punish us.
Right. Maybe I'm pro-devil then. I need to hear his side of the story, you know, because everyone's got their own side. It's all well and good believing God's theory here and saying that taking his word for it, but you know, he might have been done dirty.
Well, maybe. Question is, does he have a spokesperson in the Catholic Church?
No, not based on the whole entire conversation we've just had. Definitely not.
He does. The devil's advocate is a real position in the Catholic Church, and this is someone who is employed to question the Bible and to study Satanism and to then test faith, to question everything the Catholic Church is doing. The devil's advocate sits at these meetings with with the Pope and with all of the cardinals, and he will sit there and argue the opposite point to make sure that there is a fair showing of both sides. So this guy is just employed just to be a pain in the ass.
Well, I mean, if it was a fair showing, then there would be a 50-50 percentage between the Devil's Advocate and the Catholic Church, let's be honest. As far as I'm aware, the Devil's Advocate is a movie with Keanu Reeves, and it's been that long since I've seen it. I don't know what the actual message is.
Last one. The Catholic Church does not reject. Is that what you're going with?
Yeah.
Well, the Catholic Church is one of the only religions in the world that does not reject the theory of evolution completely. They have their own slant on it and their own take on it, but they do accept that animals and creatures have evolved over time. So
how can you not accept it as factual when it's been scientifically proven within our lifespan? This is what I don't get about religion. Like, it's been misproven. It's been proven wrong time and time again. But everybody still sits there like fucking Jesus is Dumbledore, and we all accept it. Well, I don't, but most people do.
It is because it's based on faith. You have to have faith. You have to believe.
Fuck that, man. It's been proven wrong time and time again.
Lack of faith disturbing.
I'm going to let you round this up first because I think you're in one of those moods where you're going to rant. So I'm going to kick back, relax, pour myself a drink, and just give me a nod when you're done.
No, you'd be surprised. I'm not actually going to rant because I do feel like there is a time where this is a movie we will revisit on the show, where I feel more educated and more understanding of it to give it the rant that it deserves. Whereas right now, I'm not currently in that position to do so because, like I've said, I've only watched this movie once. What I will say about it, based on my initial watch, is that I think the performances are outstanding. I think the direction is... I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's Kevin Smith's best work because I've seen him do others. I think even Tusk is a better directed movie than Dogma. But given the kind of movies that he's put out before this, it's good. It's good. He does a good job in terms of direction, cinematography. Everything looks nice. It looks crisp. It has that B-level movie-esque vibe to it, but it's good. It's competent enough that I wouldn't question it or disregard it in any way. The highlight, without question, is the impeccable writing. I think he has gone on a level and put the amount of research in required to flesh this movie out completely. And I feel like this comes across, especially tonight, based on you telling me that he's a devout Catholic. This is a passion project movie, once in a lifetime movie for a director to give it the level of attention that he has. Like all the movies that I've seen of Kevin Smith, I have to feel like this was the one that he gave the most attention to, based on the writing alone. I love it. I love it. I think the comedy is fantastic. Everything works for me that I didn't expect it to do. I thought this was going to be one of those movies that I should have watched when I was younger, alongside Jane Silent Bob Strike Back and Clerks. I'm not going to compare it to Chasing Amy because that's a completely different movie altogether within Kevin Smith's filmography. It's hard to really round this up and give it a finalized score because I don't feel like I've fully reaped the rewards of what this movie has to offer. But I know it has the potential to get a perfect score from me upon multiple rewatches. And I know I'm going to give it that within the next 2 or 3 months. Easily, I'm going to go back to this and watch it again and try and understand it more and try and pick up on those little bits of one-liners and comedic storylines that come full circle that I didn't quite grasp the first time around. And when I do that, I know I'm going to be sitting here going, this is a perfect comedy movie. But as it stands right now on an initial watch, I'm just going to give it a 4 out of 5. And that's not anything against a movie. That's just because that's just where I am with it. But I know going in after a couple of watches, it's gonna score a lot higher when I pick up on those bits that I didn't the first time around, and I make the connections that I didn't quite dot together the first time. So it's going to be a short roundup considering my usual roundup level. But I want to come back to this again after a few rewatches. Maybe in like 2 or 3 years' time, if we're still here, I'd like to revisit Dogma and properly flesh it out.
Yeah, a couple of years' time, this will definitely be revisited, I'm sure. For me, this movie means a lot. So, like I said, I watched this when I was going through my confirmation. I was confirmed late as a Catholic. I joined the Catholic faith late. It was all to do with getting into a certain school. It's a whole thing. And I saw this movie then, and it really struck a chord with me because of what I was going through. But this movie nails religion to the wall, and it doesn't stop hitting it for 2 hours and 8 minutes. It digs at everything from the basis of the foundation of faith through to how faith is used, through to how characters from the Bible are perceived, and it literally systematically picks it all apart, throws it out in a new narrative, and makes you actually go, well, to be fair, they've got as much of a fucking argument as the people who wrote the Bible.
That's exactly what I took away from it.
Yeah, no one can tell me that this is less accurate than what was written in the Gospels. And for that, I applaud it, because there are so many movies that try to dig at religion, and they come off as that they're just degrading religion. And this movie doesn't do this. This movie is very much, religion is a good thing, but you've all got the fucking message wrong, and you're all dealing with it wrong. And it's done so well. Casting's incredible. Alan Rickman is a standout. Salma Hayek's character, although she's only a bit part, she has a huge influence within the story. And I think that, again, that's down to clever writing. She is a muse. She's there to inspire people. And as soon as she gets on board, she inspires people, and everything moves a whole lot quicker when she gets involved. Practical effects, I'm going to have to talk about practical effects. The wings are fucking incredible. The shit monster that I don't know how we overlooked.
How have we not talked about the shit monster yet? In fact, how have we not talked about how Kevin Smith dispatches the shit monster?
Well, let's do it now. So the Azrael sends a Gorgothan, which is effectively a shit demon, and it comes out of the toilet.
Even the lore behind the shit demon itself, though, and when they're talking about crucifixion, and usually during crucifixion, you usually excrete yourself, and that collective stuff goes into the soil, and it formed a shit demon. I bought it. I was like, yeah, that's right, man. That makes perfect sense. If I can buy the crucifixion and Jesus' resurrection, all the rest of it, I can buy this shit demon. And it's so clever, man. But yeah, go on.
Kevin Smith. In fact, I'm going to let you, because I know how enthused you are by how Kevin Smith. So it's not a big. There's no big like biblical way of getting rid of a shit demon. How do you get rid of a shit demon, Mark?
You spray it with what's the name on the can? It's like odor cancellation or something like that, or knockout odor or something like that. But anyway, basically they're having this full thing. They're all hid behind the bar like a full-on Shaun of the Dead moment. And like, no, don't do it, Bob. Excuse me.
God bless you.
Oh, mate, that moment when they're in the board meeting and they're talking about that woman being pure and blessed, and Matt Damon loses his shit and executes everybody, and he's about to kill that woman. He's like, "You didn't say God bless when I sneezed," and that was his reasoning to kill her. I was like, oh man, again, there's so much in here that needs to be dissected. But the shit demon tries to attack them all from behind the bar, and Bob steps up, and everyone's trying to pull him down. He's trying to pull him down. He stands there so cool, so calm and collective, and he pulls out like these odorator things out of his jacket and sprays him, and it just knocks this shit demon out cold. And he just passes the can to Selma Hayek, and it reads on it like knockout odors or something like that. Brilliant. Yeah. Comedic value at its most basic level, but it was flawless.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, practical effects. The demon looks great. Like everything in this looks wonderful. The storyline is fabulous. This is a 5 out of 5 movie for me. It's a movie that I revisit often. I own a copy. I've also now I found it on YouTube. I'll be honest, it's something that when I was meant to be working this afternoon, I had it going on in the background, my headphones on while I was sat there doing invoicing. I love this movie. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. That's about it for this one. We are going to be back next week. And next week is a very special week. I'm not going to allude to what the movie is, but next week is Mark's week. So we put a poll out full of movies that are all Mark, like Mark through and through.
Do you know what I enjoy about this week more than anything? I don't have to do any prep because I've usually watched the movies that are in this poll about 1 million times. So I can come in here and rant for about 4 hours without even having to do a rewatch.
We're also going to have a brand new interactive feature that I'm not going to tell you what is yet. Keep an eye on Instagram at You Run Podcast. At some point in the next couple of days, there's going to be a new interactive feature. We've got lots of these coming. Thank you very much for listening. Leave us a 5-star review. Have a wonderful week. Be kind to each other, and Godspeed.
Amen. See you all next week, guys.
Did you just do the sign of the cross?
Is that how it's done? You go left to right or right to left?
Up, down, left, right.
Up, down, left. I did it right. Yeah, I do know.
Should we do it together? Then we'll sign off with that. Ready? Up, down, left, right.
Oh, I went up, left, right, down. Try again, man. Try again.
All right, ready? Up, down,
up,
left, right.
No, should we go on 3? 1, 2, 3, and then go, or do we do 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
Up, down, left, right. 1, 2, 3, then
no,
go.
I know the pattern. Do we go on 3, or do we go 1, 2, 3, and then go?
1, 2, 3, and then go.
Right. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Up.
Oh, this isn't working. Goodbye, everybody.
You want to die tonight?
Late at night, I tune into your show, where you talk horror with a unique flow. Your voice is like sirens, draws me in, as you pick apart movies all murder and sin. The dad jokes you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word lost in the screen. Your passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts for a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread.